I followed the car that my wife got into. Subsequently, in the parking lot, I got a threesome. My name is Jakob, I am 28. I am Austrian, but for the past few years I've been living in Spain, near Alicante. Once love brought me here. Beautiful, sincere, real. Or at least I believed in it. I met Olivia by chance on San Juan Beach. I had just moved to Spain on a work contract and initially felt like an outsider. She approached first, asked where I was from and why I looked so lost. I immediately realized that my future wife wanted to meet and spend time together in this way. Within an hour, we were having coffee, and within a week, I knew I wanted to be with her for the rest of my life. Livia was a Spaniard with character. Cheerful, emotional, fiery. She could be adored and hated at the same time. But she left no one indifferent. We were both young, we had fun, it was easy. We had sex in rented apartments, in stores, on the beach at night. We did silly things but together, and it seemed to us that this was happiness. After 2 years I proposed to her. We got married modestly, without luxury, just for ourselves. Our families were happy, although they hardly interacted with each other. My mom never learned Spanish, and her father didn't understand a word of English. We lived in a small but cozy apartment in the San Vicente area. I worked for an architectural firm, sometimes remotely, sometimes in the office. Olivia had her own beauty studio. We both earned enough not to worry about money and to live comfortably. We traveled sometimes, mostly around Europe. Lisbon, Munich, Bratislava. We had many plans, to buy a house, get a dog, and then maybe have children. The first years were almost perfect. Of course we argued, but who doesn't? She could get angry, I could become withdrawn. But we always found a way to return to the conversation. We often laughed, hugged, and fell asleep, holding hands. But something started to change. Not drastically yet, not to the point where I could say everything went downhill. No. It was more like a faint crack in the wall. You don't notice it until at some point you see that the wall already has a crack from floor to ceiling. At first, I thought we were just growing up, getting tired, spending less time together. Sex became less frequent, conversations shorter. But that's normal, right? We're not teenagers anymore. That's what I thought. I couldn't imagine how wrong I was. The first warning signs started about 6 months after the wedding. Olivia began to hold her phone differently. Before, she could leave it charging in the bedroom, in the kitchen, on the table. She didn't care. Now it was always with her. Even when she took a shower, the phone was no further than the edge of the sink. It seemed like a small thing, but I noticed it. I never intruded into her personal space. Never checked her messages, never asked who was texting her. We trusted each other. We agreed on this right from the start. It never even crossed my mind to break this rule, at first. There was even less sex, much less. Sometimes she said she was tired, sometimes not in the mood. And when we did make love, there was a certain coldness in her. She did everything as if following a script. As if she just needed to check it off and that's it. I tried not to overthink it. I attributed it to stress, to burnout. But the feeling of detachment from her side didn't go away. Then strange episodes began to happen. One day I came home early from work because our meeting with the client was cancelled. I walk in, and she, upon seeing me, literally jumped in place, closed the laptop, and said she was watching a series. I simply nodded and didn't pry, but then I remembered that the laptop was closed when I came in. Not turned off, not minimized, but closed. Abruptly closed. And then there started to be more frequent meetings with the girls. Hair salon, dinner with colleagues, an evening of self-care. I didn't control her or ask unnecessary questions. I just listened, remembered. Inside, the feeling that she was lying grew more and more. But there was no evidence, and I hated myself for thinking this way about my wife. Then something happened that was a real blow. One evening, Olivia and I were just lying on the couch, seemingly nothing special. Friday, a typical evening. I was glued to YouTube on my laptop. She was scrolling through something on her phone. Tea was cooling in the kitchen. The TV was playing in the background, but neither of us was really listening. I remember at some point Olivia slightly turned towards me, and, without taking her eyes off her phone, suddenly said she would like to try something unconventional in bed. This surprised me greatly. I was a bit shocked and asked her to clarify what she meant by unconventional. Olivia smiled and looked away, saying only that it was something that could go beyond what we have between us now. I didn't give it much thought at the time, but the idea stuck with me. We had never talked about it before. Everything between us was calm, stable, perhaps not passionate, but without drama. Then I thought maybe she just read something on the internet or a friend, let something slip, but as it turned out, this was already the final stage of our relationship. From that evening, Olivia seemed to become more closed off, and at the same time, occasionally too cheerful, somewhat artificial, light. The phone was always in her hand. Sometimes when I walked into the kitchen, she would quickly turn off the screen, saying it was just a meme or something about a dog. One day, I woke up early in the morning to her whispering in the bathroom. I went in, and she had already managed to turn off the phone, only saying she was scrolling through TikToks. But her eyes were tense, unnatural. And then there was an evening I will never forget. Olivia suddenly said that her friend supposedly, arranged an urgent meeting, important, and that we needed to have a heart-to-heart talk. She said it as if she was leaving for just a couple of hours, without any specifics. And almost immediately she went to take a shower. At that moment, something clicked inside me. I don't know what exactly pushed me then, perhaps those very accumulated little things, or just intuition, which had been knocking for a long time and finally broke down the door. I knew her password. We never checked each other's phones, and there was never a reason for distrust. Until that moment. I unlocked the screen. She hadn't deleted the conversation. Apparently, she didn't expect that I would dare. I scrolled down and stumbled upon a recent conversation with an unknown number. First there was flirting, then photos followed. Not hers, but clearly of an intimate nature. And at the bottom, a message that sent a chill through me. My friend and I are in the neighborhood. Want to have fun right now? We can drop by, pick you up, and it'll be fun for the three of us. Olivia replied very quickly, minute by minute. I'll be ready in 20 minutes. At that moment, I died. I was torn into 1,000 pieces. I don't know how I managed to stay on my feet, as I simply stopped feeling them from the pain and weakness. We no longer exist. She spat on me when she started the conversation. When she signaled to the two guys that it would be fun, she stabbed a knife under my rib. A few minutes later, she came out of the shower. Makeup, clean hair, neatly styled. Her favorite perfume, which she saved only for special evenings. And without even looking at me, without asking anything, she just threw on a jacket and left, as if I were invisible. I didn't say a word. I just took the key, and followed her. When she said she was going to an important meeting with a friend, everything about her already seemed fake. The shower was too quick, the eyes too brightly made up, the scent of perfume. And how did she just dash out the door without even a goodbye kiss? I got into the car, and within a couple of minutes, I was tailing her vehicle. She didn't go to the outskirts as I expected, but almost to the center. to a large public parking lot near the old shopping center. I drove a bit past, stopped to the side, and watched from the car. It was there that she first crossed paths with them. A black SUV, tall, shiny, aggressive. The driver rolled down the window and reached out to Olivia through it. I saw him take her by the nape and kiss her, not gently, but with force, like with a woman who belongs only to him. And Olivia. She didn't pull away, didn't look confused or scared. She smiled as if it had been planned for a long time. She walked around their car and got inside, without even looking back, not a hint of doubt. That's when I realized that everything we had, it's no longer us. It's just me now. I started the engine, keeping a safe distance, and followed them. They drove for about 10 to 15 minutes. First, past residential areas, then further and further from the center. An industrial area, little light, abandoned buildings. Then they turned into an empty old parking lot of a semi-ruined hangar complex. I slowed down much earlier, turned off the car, and got out. Descended into the ravine, circled the parking lot from the side through the bushes, trying not to make noise. It was a warm summer evening, with a breeze. My heart was pounding, as if it could be heard throughout the area. As I got closer, I heard music coming from the car, quiet, rhythmic. Then her voice, not words, but soft moans. I pressed against the side of the car and saw everything through the window. Olivia was on all fours, on the back seat of the SUV. One of her friends had joined their hips together. The second was sitting in front of her. She was eagerly playing with her hands and tongue. All three were naked. I didn't even realize how my body froze. I went into a severe shock. It became hard to breathe, and as if the air had simply vanished. I slammed my palm against the glass with all my might. The whole car shook. Olivia turned around, suddenly froze, while the guy behind continued for a few more seconds, as if wanting to cause me even more pain. And then they just laughed. The second friend asked Olivia if that was really the same dork, the same husband. They laughed even louder, calling my woman incredibly hot. The friends didn't stop. I continued, pounding on the glass, swearing, shouting. Olivia's face was in horror, but she didn't move. Only when I raised my hand as if I was about to break the glass, she started yelling at them and struggling, demanding to stop. After a minute, the back door opened. She literally tumbled out of the car, pulling on her clothes as she went. Her hair was disheveled, makeup smeared, lips swollen, her face a mix of panic, shame, and tears. Naturally, this wasn't what I thought. Naturally, I should have listened to her. She tried to shout, but I couldn't. Before I could respond, one of those creeps rolled down the window again, and, with a nasty grin, shouted that the girl was a beast, when she's on the bottom. And they drove off, leaving me standing with her, in the evening silence, under the cooling sky, and at that moment, everything fell apart. I stood on the roadside, next to my car. Everything around seemed faded, the sky, the asphalt. Even the headlights seemed dim. And in front of me stood her, Olivia, the one I loved, the one with whom I was building a future, the one who just, no, not anymore. She was trying to speak, breaking into tears. I wasn't even listening. Tears just rolled down. I just watched as she frantically buttoned up her coat. She lost her rhythm, how her lips trembled, not from the cold, but from panic. I didn't say anything to her. Not a word. I just got into the car and drove away. That night, I didn't sleep, just sat in an empty room, staring at the ceiling. Everything was spinning in my head, like a damaged film. Their hands, her body, his laughter. I couldn't even talk to anyone. I didn't call my brother, didn't write to a friend. I was very ashamed. It was painful. The next day she came. I heard the front door open. She knew where the spare key was. She entered and slowly walked to the kitchen, where I was sitting with a cup of long cold coffee. She kept apologizing over and over, explaining that she was confused and didn't know what had come over her. She wanted to feel alive and desired, as if I wasn't giving her that. The creature destroyed everything, including my sanity. I looked at her and didn't recognize her. Her eyes were tearful, her nose red, but her voice still sounded apologetically accusatory, as if it was still my fault. It was a mistake, foolishness, an adventure. It means nothing, she said. How easy it is to devalue everything and say that nothing means anything. Hitting a person also means nothing. Poisoning a dog also means nothing. Kicking a child also means nothing. Rospo, I just couldn't. I couldn't listen to all of it. She was talking, and I was mentally recalling everything. I invested in us. Every weekend that I spent to be with her, every conversation about the future, every compromise, all of it, for her sake. You just want to feel alive, don't you, Olivia? I said, looking far out the window, watching a plane fly by. And you just showed me how a person can die while still alive. I left the apartment, leaving her sitting at the same table where we had dinner together just yesterday. The following days were like in a fog. I moved, told work I was taking time off. No social media, no calls. Just disappeared. She wrote. She wrote a lot. Left voice messages. Found me through friends. Came to my door, whipped, pleaded, begged. She lay and slept on the doormat. But something inside me broke. Fear, pain, attachment all faded away. Only exhaustion remained. A week later I went to a lawyer, filed for divorce without unnecessary words. Olivia first cried, then burst into screams, accusing me of cruelty. She said that I destroyed everything. She didn't want a divorce, but if I would be willing to forgive her and try again from the beginning, she would agree to sign the papers. For the first time in many years, I deceived her. Deceived her like I never had before. Occasionally, I would tell a lie to avoid arguments or to lift her spirits. But now I used her trust, just as she had used mine all these years. We divorced and I disappeared from her life. I felt both hurt and indifferent. Hurt, only because it happened to me. I hope that over time, I will start a relationship, again, try for a family, again, but not now. Right now, I just want to be alone. Update. It's been 3 months since the day we divorced. I moved not far away, just to the neighboring district, but far enough not to hear her name from the neighbors. Not to meet her gaze. Not to see that very car in which she cheated on me. I rented a small but cozy apartment. At first, it was too quiet in there. Even my pulse seemed to sound louder in this new space. But then I learned to fill it with myself. An old record player with vinyl. Photos from hikes. The smell of strong coffee in the mornings. The silence stopped being oppressive. It became my ally. We didn't communicate at all. All conversations about our belongings, signatures, closing the bank account were through lawyers. She didn't try to get me back after the court, as if she understood that she had burned bridges. But as it happens, one evening I got a message from one of those guys. He briefly apologized, calling himself a fool, indicating that he was not in his right mind, and in reality, he's not a bad person, but back then, he went too far. I reread those messages several times, dozens of times, but I didn't reply. There was no point. He was part of the betrayal, just like she was. Only, the mask was different. Sometimes it seemed to me that I wasn't dreaming, but rather reliving memories that my brain couldn't process. How I sneak up to the car, how I hear the moans, how she looks at me, jumping out of the car, trying to squeeze out some kind of excuse. How one of those bastards yells after me that I have a hot wife. I went to a psychologist. I couldn't pull myself together for a long time, but I finally did it, and it was probably the best decision. I didn't want to seek revenge. I didn't want to get back. I wanted to understand how to live with this going forward, that everything I built died not because of circumstances, but because of someone's lust. Now I am recovering. I'm going back to the gym, picking up my old camera. Again. Going out of town again, and shooting the sunrise. I've started meeting with friends again, who were there for me in a difficult moment. Olivia? She seems to have moved to Barcelona. Someone said she's living with a new man. I don't know for sure, and I don't want to know. I believe that from the moment she opened that SUV door, she disappeared from my life forever. But I remained. And that's what matters. I stand. I breathe. I move forward. Thank you for watching our video to the end. You can also watch our previous videos on the channel. Don't forget to subscribe and set up notifications. That way you won't miss any stories we release. Thank you, and see you soon.